Whether you want to go low fat or you simply like the air fry cooking, today's recipe is pork schnitzel in the air fryer, so make sure that you watch the recipe entirely in order to get the best results. Now don't get me wrong, you can go with salt and pepper and you will get your schnitzel to a decent level. But if you want something better, which is what we're trying to achieve today, then we're gonna go with more than that. Now in this bowl, I wanna combine all my seasoning. It will make it so much easier when I need to sprinkle it over my meat. Because if you were to do it individually, it will just take so much longer and it will get kind of messy. So I've got here 1 tablespoon of salt, some freshly grounded black pepper that I just done earlier. I'm gonna go in with ½ teaspoon thyme, 1 good pinch of it. You don't wanna go with more than that. It's kind of strong and it's just enough for what we need. Garlic powder, 1 good teaspoon in there. And as always, my secret ingredient, you know me, I'm a big fan of smoked paprika. If you've been watching this channel, I'm gonna go in with a good ½ teaspoon of smoked paprika. Now combine all these seasoning, and even if it happens that you do a bit too much, you can use it in the future recipes, because this is kind of universal. It can go on chicken, it can go on pork, it can go even if, let's say, you have some roast potatoes. Now, when it comes to meat for schnitzels, you can go whichever way you want. If you want something a bit more lean, then you want to go for pork loin or pork tenderloin. If you want a bit more fat in there, then maybe pork neck might be the best option. In this situation, we've got 6 medallions of pork loin. As you can see here, there is a bit of fat on the edges of the loin. If this bothers you, which in my situation it kind of does, because I want to have this recipe on the lean side, I'm gonna trim it off. Now to tenderize the meat, put the medallions on the chopping board, but just make sure that you leave some space in between. This way, when we're gonna start tenderizing them, there'll be enough space for them to spread. Get some cling film and place it on top. This way, we're gonna keep the meat into a nice compact shape when we're tenderizing it, and also you don't kind of like get meat all over the place. We're not gonna go too thin with the pork, because if you're gonna go too thin, it will get dry. Obviously, into a deep fry fryer, there is quite a lot of moisture from the oil, but here it's not that much, so bear that in mind. Something like this is what we're looking for. Now, seasoning. Make sure that you season properly on both sides. Now, I know we don't always have the time, but if you can, and if you want to bring this to the next level, give it ½ an hour to an hour with the seasoning on. That seasoning will get into the pork, bringing your schnitzels to the next level. And whilst our pork is getting better in flavor, we're gonna start preparing the pane station. And for the pane station, you need 1 cup of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of breadcrumbs. In this situation, I'm using panko breadcrumbs. It is a bit more fancy and more expensive, but trust me, you'll get really good results even if you are using regular breadcrumbs. And we also need 2 eggs. To the beaten eggs or to the flour, sometimes I also add seasoning, the one that we prepared earlier. In this situation, I feel like I've added quite a lot on the meat, so I'm not gonna go on the flour, but I'm gonna go with a good pinch in the egg mixture. Now, the first thing you wanna do, make sure that your meat is well coated in flour. Once you got over this step, move to the egg mixture. Ideally, you wanna have a hand that goes only into the flour and into the breadcrumbs, so the dry ingredients, and the other one only into the wet, which is the egg mixture. This way, you're gonna keep everything a bit better organized and not that messy. But I do give you this advice myself, but sometimes I'm all over the place, so yeah, do it if you can. Same thing here as with the flour. Make sure that your schnitzels get well coated into the breadcrumbs. And if you wanna get a thicker crust, what you can do, you can get it back into the egg. This is optional, but if you like the thicker crust, you know, the breaded crust, then you can do this. And then just go once again and back into the breadcrumbs. And this is what we're looking for. Now continue doing exactly the same thing with the rest, but you want to make sure that your meat is well coated into the breadcrumbs. So, because otherwise when it gets into the air fryer, if you have meat exposed, then most likely will get dry and it's not what we want. I'm going to preheat my air fryer to 180 degrees Celsius or 356 Fahrenheit. The air fryer is at the right temperature. Now let's get some cooking oil. We're just gonna spray it so we keep it as low in oil as possible, but just make sure that you do this on both sides. This will give it just a touch of moisture and will also help giving it a nice golden brown color on the outside. The plan is to cook these for about 10 minutes. Now, I'm not sure whether 10 minutes is a bit too much or maybe too less. So that's why after about 5 minutes, make sure you check, see how they look like. If they look okay, then flip them, because you want to make sure that they cook evenly all the way around. And also, not just that, because the air fryer will do that job, is making sure that they get a nice even color all the way around. Serve these with mashed potatoes or French fries. And if you enjoyed this video, check this recipe right here on how to make the naughty schnitzels with chicken but deep fried. I'll see you in the next one.